On this week's episode of Farm Fresh Science, we are dissecting owl pellets.
Now, you may be wondering, what in the world is an owl pellet? Well, I can't really tell you. What's an owl pellet?
It's their poo-poo.
It is their poo.
Of an owl.
What you may not know is owls only digest the soft tissues of the rodents and things that they eat. So what's left over is a bunch of hair and bone. So we get these cool little owl pellet things, and it's kind of like a Cadbury egg. You never know what you're going to get in the inside.
Oh, I was thinking more like a hairball. Like a cat.
It is kind of like a cat hairball. But the cool thing is, owls, I don't remember it being so gross looking. Owls eat all different types of small rodents. So luckily, the place we ordered from gave us this awesome chart to let us know the different possibilities of the different rodents that they may have ate. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're getting ready in our science classes to study evolutionary changes over time. And so by identifying these structures and comparing the bones and their similarities and differences, we're able to really do a nice little intro into that, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. So I do want to come here and let you all know, these owl pellets, they're wrapped in tinfoil because they are sanitized. Do you know they're autoclaved before we get them?
I did not know that.
They are autoclaved before we get them, and an autoclave is what they use in a lot of labs to like sanitize everything. So they're heated up and sanitized. So that's why I don't have gloves on. I guess you just don't have gloves on because you don't find owl
Because I like playing
gross.
with poo. No.
But we're gonna time lapse us kind of dissecting these, and then we'll come back and let you all know what we found. Okay, so we are done dissecting one of our owl pellets. We decided that we got quite a bit, and that took a really long time for us to do just one because the bones are so itty bitty, if you can see. So we spent a little bit of time looking at our little sheet, I don't know what you call this.
Fact chart.
Yeah, to try to determine what type of animals our owls have eaten. So our options are a shrew, a rodent, or a mole. And I'll let Miss Steele start because she has an easier time telling which one she has, I think.
Okay, so I organized mine just as I was pulling them out by similar structures, because that's what we do when we're talking about evolution and evolutionary changes, because they happen so gradually over time. So a lot of times, and we had discussed this when the camera was off, a lot of times those structures look so similar, it is really hard to tell them apart. So if you do one of these at home, don't be discouraged if you're having trouble identifying which is which, because a lot of these bone structures are very similar. Now, what I've seen in mine specifically is we had more than one skull. So I've got 3 animals here, and they all have different features in their skull area. We have some that are a little bit larger than the others, and some that have pits or holes in areas where others don't. So those are indicators that'll help you to determine which one you actually got. One of the big tattletales on the skull for the rodent is that it has a big tooth towards the front of it. So I do believe that this one right here is a rodent, and you can see that bending down or that curvature in the front. I also am kind of leaning towards the shrew as well, because if you look at the pelvic bones and some of these other similar structures to the pelvic bone, like the hind limb that also has that nice opening, we've seen a lot of that as I was pulling these out. So if you look, this appears to be a hind limb because it's got that whole opening in the bone structure, and then it's got that bowing at the end where it would have been connected by some ligaments and things of that nature. And then you have hip bones like this. And the reason why I believe these are rodent specific hip bones is if you look at the socketing opening in the hip bone of the rodent, we're seeing that here. And you don't see that in the other two. And interestingly enough, I picked up one of Miss Purdue's hip pelvic bones, and I thought it looked very, very similar to the one of the mole. If you look at the one of the mole, it's very, very thick, and then the shape of that opening, and then it almost looks kind of socketed right there. And we see that on this one of hers right there. There's the socket hole, and then it comes up, and there's that little cresting there. So really awesome. It's very hard to tell them apart, again, because there are so many similarities. And that is why we believe that evolutionary change and adaptations come about, is because they're not overnight changes. They're slowly changing over many, many, many years, and generally speaking, they're in response to changes in the environment or the eating habits and the availability of food in the animal's habitat. What did you see in yours, Miss Purdue?
Yeah, so I definitely think that, especially based off of my skulls, that I have a rodent and then also probably a mole as well. And I mean, I think Miss Steele kind of covered it. I think for me personally, it's really hard to tell which is which. But again, like she talked about with the couple hip bones that I have, and then the socketing and the rodent and their pelvic bone or their hip bone, you can definitely start to tell which is which. So yeah, it's fun.
It is
cool.
Totally fun. We got this kit on Amazon, so you can actually go on Amazon and do this with your kids during the summer. This would be a really fun activity. Obviously not with small children, because a lot of these bones are very, very itty bitty, and we know how they like to put everything in their mouths. But it was just interesting being able to try and pull these individual bones out of these big clumps of hair. And maybe not tell them it's poo until they get in there.
Yeah, until the very end.
Yeah, just be like, oh, it's just a hairball, kind of like Frisky throws up, and see what they say. It's very, very interesting.
Well, that's all for this week's episode of Farm Fresh Friday.
Or is it? Kiddos, fun surprise for you. We just got extra funding, and we are going to be able to do some dissecting of these guys in class. That's right. So look forward to that. We don't know when or really how we're going to do it with the Coronja, but we are going to make it happen.
Yep. See you then.
All right.
So much taller than you. I don't think this chair goes down. Dude, you're gonna fall over. Now can you slide back? Now you're much taller.
Hello.
Hey.
All right, let's try this again.